feel like by the time I get a video out on SunnySide, it's already out of date, because that's just how fast the dev team is moving. If you've never heard of SunnySide before, I highly encourage you to check out the 2 videos I've already made on the game. The first of which being an, oh my gosh, check out this amazing game and all the features it will have video, and the most recent one was a, holy crap, look at all the stuff that's changed in just the past 4 months. Well, it's been a little over a month and a half since that video, and guess what? We're back with another look at all this new stuff video, because my goodness, have things changed. And as always, I've divided up the video into chapters because we have a lot to talk about, including new animals, new NPCs, character customization changes, info about the playable demo, the new combat system, and more. So, feel free to skip around if you wish. Before we get into that though, thank you so much for the support on the last video. Not only did it help me and my channel grow like mad, which I still can't fully comprehend, but it also helped out the developers tremendously. Being an indie studio, all the pre-orders that were made as a result of that video have gone a long way towards hiring more staff, buying tools needed to make the game, and just simply keeping the lights on. Kickstarter money only goes so far, and all of your support has helped them stay afloat until they can sign on with a publisher. I don't have current up-to-date stats, but I was told that pre-order sales were up more than 3,000% within a week of that video going live, and the Discord server has more than doubled in size to over 1,800 members. You guys are nuts. And as a thank you, here's a whole bunch of new SunnySide stuff to get excited about. Starting with some adorable cows. Now, I thought the old cows were pretty cute, but turns out they were just placeholder assets so they could get a Kickstarter trailer together, despite having every intention of redoing them, and boy am I glad they did, because they look so much better and fit within the world that they've created way better as well. They're also working on a petting animation so you can give those chonkers some love, and might even allow you to lay down in your fields with your cows and cuddle with them. In the words of the lead dev Rainey himself, this would be, quote, animation hell, but still, I want it. And with there being no limit to how many farm animals you can have, at least on PC, this could be really, really fun. The chickens have also gotten their own models, and they too look fantastic. Not only will you have to provide your cows and chickens with food and love, but also water. Now, that sounds pretty obvious, right? But I don't think I've personally ever played a farm sim where I had to consciously and actively provide my animals with water. It's always just kind of been there. You'll be able to build food and water troughs for your cows and dispensers for your chickens via build mode on your drone. Once built, you can place food in them by hand, and you'll need to fill the water troughs up with water by hand as well, using everyone's favorite addition to SunnySide, the hose. The water level in the actual trough will slowly rise as you fill it, not just the on-screen UI meter, and your animals will actually drink water out of it, rather than you just being required to place one down to check a box. And speaking of checking boxes, let's talk storage. Remember how you can order seeds online through an app called SunnySide to have seeds delivered right to your front door in just a few days' time, or pay a bit extra for next day delivery? Yeah, well, guess what those seeds are delivered in? If you guessed cardboard boxes, you would be correct. Now, if you also guessed that you'd be able to repurpose those cardboard boxes to use instead of wooden chests, for example, as a storage solution, you would also be correct. That's right. If you're like me and hoard any and all Amazon boxes that enter your home, you'll also be able to do that in SunnySide, as well as purchase them in bulk. You can also place and stack them however you would like. On the ground, on shelves, on top of each other in piles. Think outside the box. I'm sure you'll get pretty creative. Currently, these only hold 10 items, but by upgrading to plastic bins, you'll be able to store up to 25. You can also name these boxes and bins, and will be able to see that label without having to go into that storage container just by walking up to them. Additionally, for food items, there will also be a refrigerator and a freezer in which to store your perishable items, since they will not last forever. But you can slow down the rate at which they go bad by putting them in either of the aforementioned appliances, presumably with the freezer slowing down the rate the most drastically, just like in real life. This next feature is one that has been teased before, but it's finally been added to the game. You can now use the camera app on your phone to take pictures that will save to your phone's Photos app, which will store and organize your photos by year and season, making them easier to find. On these photos, you can zoom in, pan around, delete them, and also set them as your phone's background. And it's been confirmed that on PC, there will be no limit to the number of photos you can take, as they'll be stored in the same location as your game's save files. And while not in the game yet, or even 100% confirmed for that matter, there's a chance they'll be adding the ability for you to drag and drop your own photos into the same folder where the in-game photos are stored, so that they will appear in your phone's gallery, allowing you, for example, to take a picture of your real-life dog or cat and set that as your in-game phone's background, or even print it out and frame it in your in-game farmhouse. The phone will also now display the exact same thing in the player's hand as it will on the close-up of it, whereas before it was just a blank image on the phone itself. A small but super welcome detail. While using the camera, you can also place waypoints that will then shoot a beam of light up into the air in Breath of the Wild fashion, allowing you to navigate to that area. See something interesting in the distance but don't have time to check it out right now? Drop a waypoint on it so you can come back to it later. These waypoints will be able to be color-coded, seen on your minimap, even when out of the immediate vicinity, and fortunately for us, will not show up in any photos that are taken. So if you have dozens of waypoints on the map, you can still get those gorgeous scenery shots. Or, pictures of cat. I won't judge. The camera app on your phone now also exists on the drone as well, in addition to the drone's previously only function, build mode, allowing you to fly around and take photos from angles previously otherwise impossible. This might sound like a simple addition, but the functionality it can add is quite handy if you can get creative. For me, I can see myself taking a top-down photo of my farm from the exact same spot once per season to keep track of my progress over time, or to help me plan out my farm. Take a photo in-game, grab it from my PC and open it up in a graphic design editor, and map out where I want certain things to go, how I want to plant my crops for the coming season, where I want to place my buildings, etc. That, or just do a bit of aerial photography of the beautiful scenery. Either works. Speaking of the scenery though, the scenery and world in SunnySide is quite the sight, and the lighting makes for some gorgeous screenshots. But while beautiful, it's also incredibly flat. Or should I say it was incredibly flat, because over the past few days, they've decided to completely scrap the map and start from scratch. And in just 2 days worth of work, here's the progress they have to show for it. It's still nowhere near complete, as they need to add a ton more trees and foliage, roads and paths, an entire new town, and more, but I'm loving the verticality of it. 3 days worth of researching the topography and landscapes of Japan in combination with access to new map-making tools, and the realization that their previous world was simply too large and unable to be efficiently optimized is what led to these changes in the first place. And while yes, this new map is smaller than the old one, I personally am a fan. I'd much rather have a smaller, denser world than a large one that feels empty by comparison. Just keep in mind, smaller does not mean small. It's still going to be quite expansive with plenty to explore. The map isn't the only thing that's expansive though. The dev team itself has grown quite a bit since the inception of the game, and has even grown as I was making this video. Some people could care less who is behind a game, and I completely understand that, but I personally like to get to know the team behind the games I cover, which is why I enjoy covering indie titles so much. So with that said, let's meet the current SunnySide team. With how quickly the team has grown, there's a chance I've missed someone, so if I have, I apologize, and please let me know. You might notice that there is no animator listed here though. That's partly why the animations are still such a work in progress, but last I checked, they do still have plans to bring on a full-time animator. It just hasn't happened quite yet. Also, while most of these positions are pretty standard in the world of game dev, there's one that's not so much. Dante, the game's linguist, is actually creating a custom language for SunnySide. It's called The Language of the Ancients and is inspired by Chinese, Japanese, Ancient Japanese, and Sanskrit. It has its own custom grammar rules, characters, and even number system, so it's not like it'll just be a matter of translating it character for character to English or whatever your native tongue is to be able to decipher it. They have said that we'll be able to decipher it eventually, but it's not something that's going to be handed to us in-game. We're going to have to work for it. This is something I foresee being a community-wide project with lots of different people from all over the world contributing however they can, and that is something I am excited for. One other person not listed here is a consultant that they're working with who is helping advise them on the farming and gardening aspects of the game to make sure they get it right. This mysterious person has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, runs their own online shop, is published, and based on the videos of theirs that I've watched, they clearly know what they're doing when it comes to gardening, which hopefully means for us that we'll have one heck of an authentic farming experience in the world of SunnySide. And by the way, this footage in the background that we've been looking at is actually the main menu for the game. And per usual with this game's attention to detail in literally every facet ever, it will showcase multiple different weather effects with the player standing under the porch of their house instead of leaning up against the tree if it's raining, for example. And as you meet and befriend new characters, they too will be pictured on this title screen. I love all these little things. It's amazing. Talking about something completely different for a bit, we've known combat will be in the game since day one, but we've recently learned a bit more about it. Combat will be very closely tied to the story, and will give you more options than to just kill the things you're fighting. It's going to have a purpose, rather than just being added in to give you an extra level of challenge while mining, for example. They haven't given any specifics on that exactly, but at the very least, that's their intent. One huge change to the combat system, though, is that they're no longer going to have real-time combat, but instead, turn-based combat comparable to that of Chrono Trigger and Persona, which, as a lover of JRPGs myself, I'm a huge fan of. As they've continued developing the game and honing in on the experience they're trying to create for players, real-time combat just didn't fit anymore. One thing I can say, though, is that the music during combat is going to be epic. I'm currently listening to one of the battle theme songs as I write this, and holy crap, is it good! I know I'm a total tease for not sharing it with you, as I promised I wouldn't until they made it public, but trust me, it's amazing. Okay, quick interjection. Doc from the future here. I just called it a favor and got permission to share a tiny snippet of it for you, so I'm gonna shut my mouth for a sec so you can enjoy. What did I tell you? Matt, if you're watching this, you're absolutely killing it. This is amazing. As is the cast of characters for SunnySide. How's that for a segue? Which is slowly but surely growing. I know for a fact that plenty of you clicked on my last video simply for the sexy man in the thumbnail. There is no shame in admitting it. His name is Gabe, by the way. He's a father, runs the town's ranch, and yes, he is indeed romanceable. To further help quench your thirst, a few new characters have been announced, all of which are also romanceable. They only exist as concept art at the moment, but you've seen how Gabe turned out, so have some faith. First up, meet Sebastian Nakamura. He's a poet/wannabe writer who dropped everything to come help his mom run the cafe, which is where he now works, and is known to let his mind wander from time to time with thoughts all over the place. That last bit is entirely too relatable. Next up is Natalie Takahashi, or Nat for short. She's Kat's older sister, and of the two is definitely the more responsible one. We hardly know anything about her, but in case you were curious what my thoughts on her were, well, here you go. Next, we have Xander Wyatt, an ex-military American who is also fairly new to SunnySide and happens to work at the local mill. For those that enjoy and or appreciate tattoos, he has one on his calf that's dedicated to his parents. And just in case you needed to be reminded once more, yes, he is romanceable, as is yet another new NPC, Fiyukaze. He's half Japanese and half Ghanaian, and moved from Ghana to SunnySide, Japan, along with his family about 10 years ago. He's currently a college student in the nearby city and is studying music and video game design with the hopes of one day writing music for video games. And lastly, we have one final new character who is not romanceable, and for good reason. Meet Sparky, one of the robots in the game that will be a core component to the world's lore and story, and will be your companion throughout the game, following you around and helping you along the way. And yes, they are well aware of the resemblance with Tails from Sonic. Okay, so you remember the whole by the time I release a video on SunnySide, it's already out of date thing I said at the beginning? Well, as if to prove my point, they've just announced another 3 new characters. Kyle Sylvester, the town mechanic who is a bit of a loner and also happens to care for the town's harbor. Josh Newcomb, a free spirit who says yes to everything at least once and owns the bar in town. And Ryan Mezaku, part-time professor of photography at the nearby university and the one responsible for getting Lucy, Gabe's daughter, into photography. All 3 of these new characters were conceptualized by fans of the game who backed the Kickstarter campaign at a high enough level to get to have their very own custom characters added to the game. They are all romanceable as well, just saying. One thing I think that's neat about how they're handling interactions with NPCs in this game is that there won't just be one friendship bar or heart meter to fill up. Instead, each NPC, at least those that are romanceable, will have separate friendship and romance meters that can be filled up separately, allowing you to become close friends with someone without hitting on them constantly. Dialogue options will also have an icon next to them, letting you know what options are platonic or romantic, so that way you don't accidentally enter into a romantic relationship with someone just because you're overly friendly. To quote the lead developer himself,
I still to this day will not forget the day in Dragon Age that I was trying to be friends with a character and I ended up romancing him, and my character ended up gay, which was fine, but I really did want to romance somebody else and I was sad. So
yeah. Now, I'm sure he wasn't the only one who experienced that or something similar in a game before, myself included, and that is why I'm happy to hear they'll be having icons next to dialogue options. When it comes to the separate friendship and romance bars, some activities will fill up one meter or the other, while some will fill up both. And it's going to take more than just giving the person of your dreams an egg every day for a few months to get them to marry you. While gift giving will still be a component of the relationship system, it's far from the only one. One other character we need to discuss is you, the player character. They've come up with a new character creator that looks, in my opinion, way cleaner than the previous one. There's quite a few customization options available, with more on the way, and plenty more hairstyles and outfits to unlock once in-game. Skin color, facial shape, and facial features can be customized as well, along with the obvious hair and outfit selections, and even the process of character creation has been given that sweet, sweet attention to detail as well. As you progress down the options on the right side, from hair to shirt to outerwear and so on, the music will layer in. Starting with just guitar at first, then adding bass, then drums, and so on, fleshing out the song that plays in the background as you flush out your character at the same time. They also have everyone's favorite thing in character creation, sliders, which include one for your body type, which ranges from masculine to feminine. Basically, the way they mentioned to think about this is that you start with a neutral body type and then either add testosterone or estrogen. Testosterone to get more masculine features like muscles and broader shoulders, or estrogen to get more feminine ones like more pronounced curves in the breasts and hips. Lastly, you get to fill out your ID card, including your name, farm name, birth date, and gender identity, ranging on a scale from female to male. The numbers along this scale are what I assume is going to determine what NPCs will take an interest in you or not. If, for example, I am a male NPC and am as straight as an arrow, I might only be interested in women who are between a, let's say, 6 and 10 on the female side of the spectrum. But if perhaps I'm a bit curious as well, then maybe I'll be willing to date anyone between a 10 female and a 2 male. This is just a guess, but if this does end up being the case, this would result in a super interesting romance system, in my opinion. I realize not everyone is going to be a fan of this design choice, but I ask that you please keep it respectful in the comment section and be kind to one another. We all have differing opinions and different life experiences, but that doesn't make anyone's opinion less valid than another, including those of the devs themselves. Now, if you want to be one of the first to check out a playable demo of SunnySide, listen up. They're currently working on a demo to distribute to content creators to get their feedback on the game, with myself being the very first person to receive it, which I am incredibly thankful and excited for. They're planning on sending it out towards the beginning of September of this year, so if you want to do both yourself and myself a favor, don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube and follow me over on Twitch, as I'll be streaming the heck out of it on my Twitch channel, and we'll be making videos on it here on YouTube as soon as I'm able. If you couldn't tell already, I am super excited for everything SunnySide is doing, the innovations they're bringing to the genre, and just the general vibe of the community and the dev team themselves. It's super positive and encouraging, and I cannot wait to play it in just a few weeks. If you're excited for the game as well, let's talk about it in the comments, because I know for a fact that the devs will be reading some of your comments, and all of the positivity that you bring definitely helps them keep going. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. My name is DoctorDDub, and until then, as always, take care.